Hello. So back again to annoy everybody. Still sticking around. Yeah, so I thought I would give an update about everything that's been going on for, I guess, I don't know, it's been months and months since I did another video. Yeah, and thought I'd just talk about some things that have happened over the past couple months. Just kind of an update. So let's see, over the past, I think my last video I didn't talk about something where I had had a surgery and ended up being in the intensive care unit, and I was like almost a month or so in the intensive care unit. This is when, so in the last video I talked about how they weren't sure, they still needed to do like some biopsies and stuff and figure out, you know, if cancer was still around. So they went in and did that biopsy, and great news, they couldn't find anything. The only thing that was kind of not so great that happened is during the biopsy, I guess some things went wrong. I don't know, but I ended up being in the intensive care unit for like a month, and for a couple days after that, I was just pretty much completely out of it. Like the whole side of my body was swollen up, and I just remember a few things because I was so heavily medicated. That I mean, I remember some nice nurses and stuff, and my wife coming to visit me a little bit, but beyond that, I don't really remember too much. But then I got out, and well, I think I should say something about that. So I had always had this, a couple years ago, I had a flooded lung or a collapsed lung, and they sealed it up with this material, and so it had always been difficult to breathe because of that. And so I think what made that biopsy so difficult is they had to go in and they had to undo all that. And the way they seal up your lung is they shoot like this powdery stuff in there, which is a great experience, by the way. If you ever get a chance, make sure that doesn't happen if you can avoid it. But anyway, they shoot this powder in your lungs, which feels like they are literally turning your lungs on fire, like putting them on top of on a bonfire or something. And you roll around the bed screaming for a little bit. And then when you're done with that, your lungs are sealed up and they can't really expand. So they went in with this, whatever, for the biopsy, and they had to cut out all that. And in the process, I guess, I don't know, things went south. And so I ended up in intensive care for like a month. But the good news of all of that was because they were lining me up to do radiation therapy because they had seen like some not nodes in the CAT scans that had lighted up, and that means those are like there's a high metabolic rate in those regions, which tends to be cancer. But it looked like after they went into the biopsies, for me, those were like regions that were like scar tissue essentially from that, you know, the sealing of the lung I'd had a couple years ago. So anyway, I ended up getting out of the hospital finally, and then when I was finally out of the hospital, I just wanted to start doing stuff for as long as I was not in the hospital. So I pretty much very quickly, now here in Germany, they offer, you can do, after you've gone through this whole process, so you get out and they kind of say, okay, we can't find cancer in you now. You can do, you know, it's time to go back to work basically. So they offer you sort of I don't know what you call it, like a cure. I don't know what the translation is. That you can, what's the translation, you know?
Rehabilitation.
Yeah, okay, so like rehab. So you could go to like a rehab clinic for a couple weeks and the government will pay for that, and you know, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just chill in my house because I like being in my house. And then after I did that for a couple weeks, started back at work doing kind of a part-time. So I was getting back to work, and then I started training again, and that's pretty much what I've been doing for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, I guess, and just doing tons of stuff that I enjoy, like definitely starting to work out with weights, and this time I've been doing like a different type of weight training than I've done before, which is mainly just strength training. So I'm not trying to gain any real muscle or anything. I'm just trying to get stronger, which is an interesting task in and of itself, just to see like what are the exercises and the way to train if all you care about is just increasing the amount of weight you can move over whatever distance it is. But anyway, so that's that. I've also been doing tons of sports I always wanted to do. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, tried that out a couple weeks ago, which was really fun. I loved it. It was super tiring, and I got beat by people much smaller than me. So there's tons of stuff to learn there. And I've been doing sort of like with some friends of mine, bouldering a lot, which is also fun. Yeah, and then we also, me and my wife, we went ice skating. I went ice skating for the first time. So, I mean, really what I'm just trying to say is there's all these things that, I've been able to do over the past couple months, which has been like fantastic, and where you're living and enjoying life. And so I think anyone that, when you're coming into this and you're thinking like you got a cancer diagnosis, and I'll get into what it's like to live with it now, but regardless, I mean, you're going to have good days and you're going to have awesome things about life that you can enjoy still, and you'll have the opportunity to do a bunch of things that you'll still have opportunity to live life, so don't forget that if you're coming into this and you're just watching the videos. So now, it's been on that for several months now, still doing, part-time work, and then just doing lots of physical activities that I love. And now it's just a regular sort of, they come in and they check how you're doing. And so they're looking for the cancer and seeing whether or not it's going to come back. So you go in every 3 months, basically, and they do a CAT scan. I had my last one in November. I've got one coming up in a week or two, and they'll look at your blood values every 3 weeks, 2 weeks, something like that, depending on how they are. For me, they've been really bad, so they're constantly looking in to see, like, maybe, are they getting worse? And particularly what's been really bad for me have been the white blood cells, which is basically like your immune cells, etc. So that's why this week they had to do another bone biopsy where they go in and drill into a little bit part of your hip and then pull out some of the bone marrow and look at it. So you're living in this constant state of like, well, are they going to find cancer again? Is it going to come back? And which I imagine for a lot of people, even for me sometimes, like even with all the like mental tools I've developed to be able to deal with it, can be very stressful and anxiety inducing. And I think the biggest sort of approach I've taken that's really helped me to deal with that is just not to worry about tomorrow, today, and actually live that. Like if you can just get in and live it, and if you find yourself falling into thoughts where it's like, oh, what are they going to find out in a week from now? And then am I going to start chemo again? Are they going to tell me I'm going to die? Blah, blah, blah. Like just don't ever let yourself go down that path. I mean, I guess you could do it and say, okay, well, here's the thought. I mean, sometimes if it happens, I'll say, well, okay, that's what can happen. But then you're done. Like, okay, it's a dead end. And then you can go back to whatever you're doing today and have fun, with your friends or go out to eat with your wife or whatever, So that's one of the things I want to say about that. And then I guess, let's see. Yeah, so then I want to talk about this other topic that I thought, now looking back on my whole experience, was something that I think I would have liked to know at the beginning that someone told me. So I was in the hospital and I was getting chemo for one of the treatments. And then one of the nurses came to me and she said, she had always been measuring my heart rate. And I had like a really low heart rate, not blood pressure and all that stuff. And she said, are you a professional athlete or something like that? Like, she was like, you do tons of sports and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I have in the past, but, not really recently. And then she said, she's like, use that, she's like, it'll be a real advantage for you. And that's something that stuck with me. It's like that, maybe not directly with like athleticism, but just with when you're going through this process, you're going to have things where you have an advantage, like your strong points. And whatever they are, use them. Like if you have any advantage, whether it's just always having a positive outlook, or whether it's you can talk to other people really well, like use those things and like grab onto them, because that'll be one of the things that can help pull you through. Like I know for me, it turned out being that sports and activities that like I would still try to train and exercise and do everything I could do, even though I was feeling like total crap. And I think that does help me. It helped me get through that, and it helps me get through even today, I mean, that's another thing. It's when you've gone out and you've done some jujitsu, or you've been climbing a mountain for 2 hours, or you've been training in the gym really intense with heavy weights and stuff. You don't have a lot of time to sit there and worry about the future either. And you're not concerned with all that. You're just in the moment, living life. And so that's one thing I want to say about that. And the other thing is, there were several situations like that where I don't know. I mean, if the nurse thought this, she might have known that she was really helping me out. But I think a lot of times, what people say to you can have like a really profound effect on you, and mean a lot for you when you're going through this, and you never know what it's going to be. So when you're I think dealing with other people maybe that have cancer, or going through their own difficulties, just reach out and try to help them. And you never know what's going to stick and what's not. Something they might just be like, okay, well, thanks, whatever. And then for some other people, what you say might be the thing that helps them get through it. And like I said, you need everything you can in this process. So I think not only from a perspective for yourself, but also when you're dealing with other people that are going through this is one of the things you keep in mind. Let's see. I guess that's about all I wanted to say. Maybe a little bit of an update about what's coming up. So as I mentioned, I've got more checkups, and they continually do this. So the way the process, I finished, what was it, maybe 7 months ago, the whole chemo, and then maybe 6 months ago I'm finally out of the hospital, done with the biopsies and the surgery and everything. And so, yeah, actually it would be almost 6 months ago, because now I'm coming up on my second CT scan. And they look every 3 months for 2 years, I think, and for the cancer to come back, because in the first 2 years, that's when the highest likelihood is that it's going to come back. And then I think they reduce that after 2 years or 18 months, something like that, to every 6 months, and etc. But essentially, for the next 5 years, it's just a lot of every couple months they're going in, and you're hoping it doesn't come back. So that's kind of and then if you get through all that and cancer doesn't come back, hopefully, then it's really long time, and then your likelihood of getting that same cancer again, at least with this cancer I had, lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's, is pretty, I think, fairly good. In terms of you're probably not getting it, it gets really low, and it's comparable to other people in the population. So, yeah, I think that's it's kind of the outlook, and just want to give an update and then say, how much you can still, even if you after you go through all this, it's hell, but you can really enjoy life afterwards. So don't lose hope. All right, thanks.